Hello everybody, welcome to Weekly Tech. How are you all? In this video, we will discuss about map, filter and reduce methods in JavaScript. We will see some real life use cases associated and related with all these three methods. Among these three methods, map is the most famous one, and all these three methods are used with an array. So these three are associated, or we can say array methods. So they need an array in the input. So the first point that you should remember is map, filter and reduce. All three of them will need an array in the input. So let's talk about map method first. So map method always returns a new array. Map needs array in the input, and it gives you a new array. So the new array is not reference typed, it is a completely new array, and this new array is populated with the results of calling a provided function on every element in the calling array. So map basically will take two arguments. One is a callback function, and the second one is the this argument, and we will discuss more about this later in this video. So this callback function is called for every element of the input array, and each time the callback executes, the return value is added to the new array, and the callback accepts three arguments, and these three arguments are, the first one is the element itself, the element of the array. The next one is the index, and the third one is the array, the original array, the input array. Okay, so for an example, whatever we have discussed, let's see with an example. And I want to create a new array using array1, which will hold the number multiplied by 2 with each of the values in the array. So for that we can use map method. So map, as we discussed, will return a new array. So we will cache that new return array to a new array. So we'll say map arr, and we will call map method on the array1 dot map, and the first argument is a callback function. So this argument is the second argument is and it is not the mandatory one. The first one, you should always provide a callback to map. So the first will be the element, and we are here interested only in the element, so we are only using the element. We are neglecting the rest of the two parameters, that is index and array. And I'm using an arrow function here, so I will return element into 2, and that's it. So let me log the mapped array, and you will have 2, 8, 18, 32 in the output. That's what we want. So things which we note from the map method, the first one is this return is necessary. So if you won't provide a return over here, so the output will be a new array which will have undefined number of times we have the elements in the array. So if we have 1, 2, 3, 4 elements in the array, so we'll have 4 undefined in the new array. So this return is mandatory here, and we can use the functionalities of arrow function in which we have only single line return in the arrow function. So we can remove the parenthesis, and by default the first line is returned. So this will work for us. And the next thing that we should note is the output array will always be equal to the number of elements in the input array, and if you are neglecting few of the elements in the input array, then an undefined will be returned. For an example, if I say const mapped arr2, and I'll use arr1 dot map, and I'll say I'll get the element on the first as a first parameter, and then index as a second parameter, and I will use a if condition here, that if index is not equal to 2, then only return element into 2, else don't return anything. For now, let's have it equal to. So if the index is equal to 2, then only return an element, else don't return anything. So what will happen in this case? As we have discussed, that map will always return a new array, and if we are not returning any element in the callback function, it will by default return an undefined, and that's what will happen here. So for the first element we are not returning anything, so undefined, and for the third element, that's the second index, we are returning an element multiplied by 2, that is 9, and you will get 18 in the output. So you should be very cautious, and if you know that what you are doing and what map does, then only use it, and it's a very helpful function when you know it. So the next point of discussion about map should be when to use map and when to not use map. So when you should not use map, there are two scenarios. So when you are not using the array, let's create a function book ticket, and it will take one parameter, that is the passenger name. Okay, and it will simply create a string which will say ticket details, and this will be booked seat number, this dot seat number of train, this dot train number for the passenger name, that is coming in the input argument, and we will simply log the ticket details. That's it. So for an example, let's say we have an array which will contain names of the passengers. The first one will be Uday Singh, and the second will be John Daniel Pond. Okay, now I will use map method to iterate over this full names array. So the first argument will be a callback function. There will use element to get the element, or we can name it anything. It's not necessary to be element. We can use full name. So the input array name is full names, and each element will say full name, and I want to call, or we can simply directly call the book ticket here, and in input we need a passenger name, and map will give the passenger name to book ticket. So instead of using it like this, we can simply call the book ticket. Okay, so book ticket, and it will iterate over element of full names. So the first element is Uday Singh, and the next one is John Daniel Bond. So what do you think, what will be the output? We are using this here also. Let's see. So booked seat number undefined, for train undefined, for Uday Singh. So it got the passenger name correctly, but what about the seat number and train number? Why it is undefined? And we have seen this in our previous videos when we discuss about this keyword, that in a normal function call in non-strict mode, that this will be the window object, and in window object there is no object or property defined by seat number and train number, so we'll define it. Okay, so let train details equal to a new object which will have seat number, and the seat number will be A143, and we'll have a train number which will be 2904, for example. Okay, but now I want map to use this value, or to use the train details object as this keyword, so that when I do a this dot train number, it can pick 12904. So there we can use the second argument of map, that is this argument. So here we can pass the object or this argument, and we'll get the correct output. Booked seat number A143 for train 12903 for Uday Singh and John Daniel Bond. But in this case, we are simply logging the details of the ticket, or in real world we'll insert it into a database. We are not using, and map will also return an array here. So if I say const ticket details equal to this, and if I log ticket details, so what do you think, what will the output? It will be undefined. Why? Because we are not returning anything here, so we need to return something here first. As I said, return is necessary, it is mandatory, and whatever we return from the callback will be captured, or will be cached by, or will be inserted into the new array. So we need to return ticket details, and now it should work. Okay, book seat number, but we are not interested in ticket details array. We are only interested to, for now, for the demo purpose, to simply console it. So there is no use of map method. If we are not interested in the output array created by map, we would have simply used an forEach loop. And how we would have done it like this. So full name dot forEach, and the first will be the element, and mind you, forEach will also give you index and array usages. Okay, so forEach will also provide you 3 arguments, or in callback of forEach you can have 3 arguments. The first one will be the element itself, then the index, and the array itself. So but right now we are interested only in the element. Let's say the full name, and we will call, and just like the way we did it with map, we can directly call the book ticket here, and for each will also have this keyword, and so that we can also pass the train details. Okay, and the output will be, so the output will be same, Uday Singh and John Daniel Bond with seat number and train number. The problem with loops are you cannot chain loops. I mean, you can chain a map filter, you can chain methods, but you can't chain loop. And by method chaining or by function chaining, I mean, let me just show it to you by an example. So let's say I have a use case where I want to create a username, and that username will be created based on the names that we will pass to that function. So for an example, if we are passing this name Uday Singh to that function, then that function will return a username like US and the length of the first name. So it will take the first letter of the first name and the first letter of the second name and append it with the length of the first name. Same in case of John Daniel Bond. The output will be JDB with the length of the first name 1, 2, 3, 4, like this. So for that, let me create a function, create user, and it will take one argument that will be full name, and let me call this function using the map function, full names dot map, and map needs a callback and we are giving a callback to it, and that callback will receive 3 arguments, and we the element itself index an array, the original array, but we are only interested right now in the element. So we will now chain methods over the full name. So full name will be a string, so we'll have our first element Uday Singh in full name. So first we want to convert it to lowercase because we need the output in lowercase, and then we will split it using white space, and split will return a new array. Okay, so the output of the split is a new array. So on new array or on array we can use again the map method, and here as we discussed earlier, map will take 2 arguments. One is the callback function and the next one is the this argument, and the callback function will map will give 3 arguments to the callback function. First one is the element, then the index, and the array itself, and we are interested in all 3 of them, so we'll capture it. So it will be element, then the index, and then the array itself. And I will use a if condition here. So if arr dot length is equal to index plus 1, because the index is 0, starts from 0, and the length will be the total length of the array, so we need to add 1. So for example, in this case, if I print the length of the array, it will be 2, but the last element will be at the first index, so I need to plus 1. And else, so by this condition, what we are trying to achieve is we are trying to find, are we sitting at the last element. So split will make an array which will look like this, Uday, comma, Singh. Okay, and for John it will be like this, and we are mapping over this array. Okay, so by this condition we are trying to find out whether we are sitting at the last element of the array. So if the length, let's say in this case the length is 2, and if the index is equal to 1, and so 1 plus 1 will be 2, so by this we are saying, okay, we are sitting at, or we are using the last element, which is Singh in our case for the first array. Okay, and bond in case of the second array. So in this case I want to return, so the return is necessary in case of map, so I will return element first letter. So element will be Uday and Singh. So in the case of when we are sitting at the last element, it will be Singh, and I want to use the first letter, that is S, and I will concat it with the original array, and the first element, that is the first name dot length, because we want 4 or the length of the first name to be appended at the end of the username. Okay, and in case of and in else we will simply return the first letter of the element. And yeah, that's it, I think so. Yeah, but we need to, okay, so map will return a new array, and we need to join that new array to make it a string. And yeah, I think this is it. So let me console it, and we should get the output. Okay, we got undefined and undefined, because we are not returning anything. Return is necessary because map create uses a callback for map, and we need to return from the callback so that it can be cached or inserted into the new array. So now it will give us the correct output, us4 and jdb4. So for Uday Singh we have us4, and for John Daniel Bond we have jdb4. So this is what I was talking about, the method chaining or the function chaining that we can't use with loops. Okay, so there can be n number of methods to achieve this output from this string, but I intentionally want to show you by using it with map. Now comes to the next use case of map, or I can say a tricky use case of map. That is, for example, I have const there are 2 and 1 2 3, and obviously all the elements in the array are of string type. And to prove this, let me console, and for now let me just comment out this console, and I will console type of here are 2 zeroth element, and I'll get string in the output. Okay, now I want to convert this string into number, and it's easy, right? We can use parseInt to convert it into a number, and you'll get type as a number, and the output will be the number 1 itself. I have a lot of numbers sitting as a string in an array, and I want a new array. I don't want to disturb the original array. I want a completely new array which will have the elements sitting as a number. Okay, so we can use map here. Here are 2 dot map, and we can directly call parseInt. So parseInt will need an element, and map will give it an element to it, 1 2 and 3, and parseInt will convert it, and parseInt will also return it. So we'll have a new array, and we can simply log it, isn't it? What do you think? What will be the output? So pause the video for a moment and think about the output. 1, not a number, not a number. How? So here you need to understand the functionality of parseInt. So parseInt will not only take 2 arguments, but it will also convert the base for you. For example, I have 11, let's say I have 11 here, and I will uncomment it, and I will console it. So I'll get 11 in the number, but if I pass 10 for decimal base, I'll get 11 in the output. So this is the radix. Okay, and if I pass hexadecimal 16, so parseInt will convert this first element to its hexadecimal value, because we have passed 16 here in the second argument of parseInt, that is the radix. So 16 to the power 0 is 1. 1 into 1 will be 1. 16 to the power 1 is 16. 16 to the power 1 is 16 into 1 will be 16. So 16 plus 1 will be 17, and the output will be 17. If I pass 8 here, so it's again octal. So 8 to the power 0 is 1, into 1 will be 1. 8 to the power 1 is 8, into 1 will be 8. 8 plus 1 will be 9. So the output will be 9. So we have seen this when map calls a callback function, it gives 3 arguments to the callback function. One is the element, index, and the array. So map is not only passing the element but also passing the index to parseInt function. But parseInt wants a radix to be sitting at the second argument. But what map is providing it the index of the array. Okay, so when I pass 0 here, the output will be 11. Okay, so that's what happening with the first element. But when I pass 1 here with the first element, then output will be not a number. Okay, so that's what actually happening in this case, and this can be one of tricky interview questions for you. So how to actually fulfill the use case? We need to tweak the map function a bit. We need to say arr2 dot map, and I'll use the element, and then I will return parse int with the element. Okay, and now I'll console it. The output will be 11, 2 and 3 in number, and that's what we want. And we are using ES6 arrow functions here, and we have only one line sitting inside the function, so we can simply remove the parentheses and the return keyword. It will by default returned, and it will be simplified till this level, and we'll get the same output. Okay, so I think I have covered a lot of use cases in case of map function to help you understand the actual core logic and concept. The one last thing that I want to mention about map is, if you are not returning the element, the output array will have undefined, and that's what we have seen here, that if you are not returning all the elements, then you'll have undefined setting for rest of the elements. Okay, so be careful with that. Now let's talk about the filter method. That is the next method. So same as map, filter will also take two arguments. One is the callback, and then this argument, and the callback function will also have element, index and array as the parameters. And filter, as compared to map, will return an array, but will filter out the output based on a filter condition. For an example, let me use this fruits array here, and I want to create a new array using the fruits array, but that new array will only have those values whose length is greater than 5. So how to achieve it? We can use filter method. Okay, so const filtered array will be fruits dot filter, and we'll take element, and we have a condition here. What is the condition? Condition will be simply element dot length should be greater than 5. Okay, and I will print the filtered array. Let's check the output, and we have is not defined mapped AR2. Why it is giving me this error? Okay, I need to comment on this. So let's try one more time. What will be the output? A blank array. Why? Because we are not returning. So this return is necessary here, guys. I always forget about it. Okay, so we have banana whose length is greater than 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and grapes and oranges. Don't get confused by this expression over here. It's a condition. Okay, generally when we see this kind of expression, I think the output will be a boolean value. For example, if I take log console.log fruits dot zeroth index dot length is greater than 3, and the output will be a boolean value. Okay, but in this case it's a condition over here. Okay, and based on this condition, return the element. Okay, if the element is fulfilling this condition, return it. This is what filter method is actually doing for you. Okay, so don't get confused with this expression over here. Okay, so what are the use cases of filter method where we can use the filter method actually? So for that, let me show you something. The use case, I want to find the element in the fruits array uh, which will have a particular keyword inside it. For example, if I will create a function, and to that function I'll give ap in the input as a query, as a keyword, and that should give me apple, because apple will have ap, and should give me grapes because grapes is also having ap, and that's it. And if I pass an to it, so it should give me banana because it is having an an inside it, and it should give me mango also, and it should give me orange also. Okay, so I want to create this function. So for that we can use filter method. So again, there can be n number of ways to achieve this, but I want to show it to you by using the filter method. Okay, so fruits dot filter, and filter will need an element, and before that let me create a function. Okay, so function will be const search item, and search item will take two arguments. One is the array, and then the next one is the query. And inside search item function we will use the filter method on this arr. So arr dot filter, and we'll have the element, and we are only interested in element, so we will only use element. And first I want to lowercase the element to lowercase dot. Now I want to search for an index. I will use either index of or includes. So my favorite is includes, so I will use includes, and includes will give me true and false. So I need to provide this query to includes, and this query, for the safer side, I also will convert it to lowercase, and if that equal to I'm sorry, if that is equal to true, so this is the condition. Okay, and I will return it. So return an element, first convert it to lowercase. So for example, our arr is the fruits array, and the first element is apple, so convert apple to lowercase first, and check whether that string is having a ap as a keyword inside it, and if it is there, then return it. So this condition, if it is true, then return it. Okay, so this is a condition. If includes equal to true, then return it. And we are using ES6 here, and I have only one line, so I can remove the parenthesis and the return keyword, and yeah, that's it. So let me call the search item, and I will also return a new array. Okay, I need a new array, so I'll return, the filter will return an array, and I will return that array. Okay, so I will log console.log search item. So first use the fruits array and query it with ap, and then use the same fruits array and query it with an. So please note, the map and filter, both of them, and even reduce, so all three of them will not hamper the original array. Okay, so in case of the second call of search item, the fruits array will still remain intact. Okay, so let's see the output. So apple and grapes, and for an we have banana, mango and oranges. Fantastic, isn't it? So this can be one of the use case of filter method. So I hope filter method is quite clear now by this use case. And yeah, filter method will also can also take this argument, just like the map method. Okay, so let's go to our next and the last one, that is the reduce method. So reduce method is a bit tricky uh, because it will not return an array for you, it will return a single value. Map and filter, both of them are returning a new array for you. Reduce will return a single value. So for example, I have so let's use this ARR1 here. So let me log it first to show you what is actually sitting inside it. Okay, so ARR1 is 14916, and I want a value which will be the sum of the elements inside ARR1. So again, there can be n number of ways of doing it, but I want to show it using the reduce method. Okay, so how we can do it? We can use ARR1 dot reduce. So unlike before that, I want to share something. Unlike map and filter, reduce will also take two arguments, but in this case it's not the this keyword for the second parameter, it's the initial value. So reduce, and it will take a callback function, and the second parameter will be the initial value. So what is the initial value? I'll tell it to you. Okay, and the callback will be or will have four parameters. The first one is the previous value, the next one is the current value or the current element, then the index, and then the array itself. Okay, so what is this previous value and current element? I'll show it to you. So before that, let me sum the elements of array1 array. Okay, so the first one will be the previous value, so I'll use prev, and the second one will be current value, I'll use crr for the current value, and I want to return previous plus current, and I will log it. Okay, so the output will be 30. So 1 plus 4 will be 5, and 5 plus 9 will be 14, and 14 plus 16 will be 30. So I was talking about the previous value and the current element. So let me console it, then let me console all of them actually to show it to you and to make it more clear. Okay, and I will remove it for now, or instead of removing it, I will log previous with the previous parameter, and then the current with the current parameter, and obviously the index, that is the index, and the array itself, KRR. Okay, so please observe the output. So in this case, the previous will be the first element, that is 1, and the current will be the second element, that is 4. And please note, this iteration is not started from the first element or from the 0th index. It got directly started from the first index, because the previous argument or the previous variable is holding the first index. Okay, and if you see the length of the array 1 2 3 4, and if the iteration is 1 2 3, so in this case the number of iteration is always -1 if we are not passing an initial value. So when the loop or when the iteration first started, when is the first call to the callback, the previous parameter is having 1, that is the first index or the first element, and the index is 1. Index 1 means the second element, so both the current and index is pointing to the second element, but previous is holding the first element. Okay, so when I do previous plus current here in this expression, in the next call to the callback, previous will hold the sum or whatever this expression gives as the output. So 4 plus 1 will be 5. Again, the current will be the next element 9, and index will be the third element or the second index 0 1 2, and 5 plus 9 will be 14, and in the last call for the 16th value or for the fourth element or for the third index, the current will be 16 plus 14 will be 30 in the output. Okay, so again 1 2 3 4, but the callback was called only for 3 times because the previous is holding the first element right from the first call. So if you don't want this to happen and you want the callback function to be called right exactly equal to the number of the elements in the array or the length of the array, and if you want the previous element to hold some other value as an initial value, instead of holding the first element, you can pass an initial value. So for example, if you pass 10 over here, so in this case the output will be 30 plus 10 will be 40. Okay, so in this case previous is not holding the first element, it's holding an initial value that we have passed, and the current is now holding the first element, and now the index is 0. So if you count the number of call of the callback, so 1 2 3 4, it is equal to the number of elements sitting in the array. Because we have passed an initial value, so previous is holding a value right from the beginning. If you pass any other value, if you pass a negative value, so let's say minus 10 over here, so 30 plus minus 10 will be 20, so the output will be 20. Okay, so this how reduce works. So I know it's a bit weird in case of reduce to digest it for the first time, but as soon as you start using it, you will be comfortable with reduce. Okay, so what are the use cases of reduce where we can use it? So one of the use case that I can show you right now is to flatten an array. Let's say you have a nested array, and that is like 1, then true, then again a nested one 3, 4, and then 5, 6, and now you want a new array in the output which will look like this: 1 2 3 4 5 and 6. So you can use the reduce method over here to flatten the nested array. How? Let me show it to you. Nested array dot reduce, so previous and current. Okay, and this will be a callback, and in this case the previous will hold the first element, that is 1 and 2, and the current will hold, because we are not passing any initial value. Okay, so and the current will hold 3 and 4, so both will be an array. So I can use the concat method to concat two arrays. Okay, so I can do this: previous dot concat it with the current element or the current array. So 1 2 will get concatenated with 3 and 4, and it will return a new array. Okay, so I need to use return over here. and this new array will be 1 2 3 4, and then at the second iteration the previous will hold 1 2 3 4 and current will hold 5 and 6. Again we'll concat 1 2 3 4 with 5 and 6, so we'll have 1 2 3 4 5 6 as a new array, and we can log it like this. So we'll have a flattened array in the output 1 2 3 4 5 6. So you can flatten a nested array by using a reduce method, like just like this. This is one of the use case and can one of the interview questions. And in the end I want to show you all the three methods, map, filter and reduce, in a single chaining of method. So for that let me create a new array, and that new array will be transactions, and transactions will hold the money debited and credited in your account. So for example you have minus 200, so $200 get debited from your account, and then you have 300 that is credited, then 500 credited, and then 100 got debited. Okay, now I want to know how much is credited and how much is debited. Okay, so in this case 300 is credited, 300 plus 500, and 200 and 100 got debited. So 300 got debited and 300 plus 500, 800 got credited in your account. So we can use all the three methods, filter, map and reduce, to fulfill this requirement. So we will first use the filter method to filter out the non-negative values. So we'll first go for the credited value. Okay, so we'll use filter, and it will take an element and it will return a new array based on this element if it is greater than 0. Okay, so if it is a positive number, return it. Okay, and I can remove the parenthesis again. So I intentionally do it. I first use the return and then I remove it, just to show you that this is another way of doing it simply. Okay, so filter will return a new array, and on filter I can, so okay, I am changing the requirement here. So these values are in US dollars and I want to convert them into Indian rupees. Okay, so const dollar to INR, and the factor will be 70. So I will multiply 300 and 500, 200 and 100 with 70 to get the output as Indian currency. So filter will give me the positive values from this array, and I will map those values, again the element, again I'm intentionally using a parenthesis and using the return, and then I will remove it, return a new array which will have element multiplied with dollar to INR factor. Okay, and that's it. So let me just remove the parenthesis, remove the return, arrow function will by default return it, and then I can use the reduce method to calculate the total sum. So map will return a new array, so filter will return a new array which will have the positive element, and then map will map each element or multiply each element with the conversion factor, that is 70, and then I will reduce those values by a reducer callback function, and that reducer will sum all the values of an array. So again the previous value, the current value, and again return previous plus current. So remove the parenthesis, yeah, I think we are good here. So log it out. So let me take it out in a variable. So const credit, and the same I'll do with debit. credit and debit. So debit will be less than 0, that means the negative values, and I will multiply it with 70 and then sum it all. So sum will again be a negative number, so we'll handle it. Log credit and debit. Okay, so the output will be 56000. So 300. So let me grab a calculator quickly. So 300 plus 500 will be 800, multiplied by 70 will be 56000, and that's what we got in the output. And then 200 plus 100 will be 300, multiplied by 70 will have 2100 in the output as the debit one. Fantastic, isn't it? And we can use math.absolute to remove the minus sign. So we'll get credit as 56,000 and debit as 21,000. And there we have used all the three methods: filter, map, and reduce. So that's it, folks. I think I have covered a lot of scenarios and use cases, and I went thoroughly into each and every method. Hope you liked the video. Please let me know in the comment section if you have any doubts and suggestions. Please like, share, and subscribe, please. It gives me a lot of confidence to make such kind of videos, and it takes a lot of hard work and time to do the research and make such kind of videos. Thank you, guys.